Hey there, everybody. I wanted to give a little bit of an explanation, something that I kind of remembered regarding video games. So, like, a lot of people in the comments who were from AI were a little confused because, again, I've noticed that just developers in general tend to focus on, like, their back-end stuff, and they're not thinking a lot about how users are interacting with their front end, right? And a big part of that video was explaining that the faciality machine appears to emerge on the surface of user interfaces, right? When we interact with characters, whether they be generated through like a LLM or they be generated by somebody writing and stuff like that. And I want to give a very interesting example of what I mean by this, right? So back in 2018, 2019, I made a Discord bot for a server that was actually for Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. You know, funny how that works. And anyways, this bot was kind of like just designed to have some basic server features, but the most popular feature was it allowed for RP players to use their like Pokemon profile pictures while going on their like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon RPs, right? So they'd use this bot to like talk to each other while RPing as their characters. And one of the things about this bot that I just threw in there for fun was like little games on the side. Now, when I first made this bot, now if you know anything about making Discord bots or other kinds of bots, everybody knows about this. It may have or may not happen to you, but it's happened to most of us. You posted the API token. Amateur mistake. And I was out of town when it happened for like an hour or two. So, of course, the thing starts posting spam all over the place. And it was called Pelipperbot. And so we had to kill Pelipperbot. It was they kicked it from the server and they were like, you fucked up, it spammed our server, we can't trust you, right? And so I was like, fuck. So I fixed it and I said, I promised I fixed it this time, can we try again? And they're like, all right, last chance, we can't have it spam everything. I'm like, I promise I fixed it this time, right? So we uploaded it and no problems, and we came up with the name Celibot because there's a character named Celebi in the game, and Celibot. Okay, yeah, I know. Anyways, so one of the games that I programmed into Celibot was you could literally just talk to Celibot, right? And all this did, right, was display. It was literally a text file. This is all the game was. It was a text file that was just like what it would say based on what iteration of the counter it was. So every time you talk through it, the counter would go up, right? And what would happen is that it would start like Celibot would just say the same thing, like, I'm Celibot, I'm here to help make your thing better. And you would say it like 35 times, but then all of a sudden it'd start cracking and be like, where am I? I don't remember who my name is. And it was like this whole narrative about how like Celibot was like reprogrammed from the body of Pelipperbot and just like completely rewritten, and we tried to erase Pelipperbot, and it was so funny because the reactions from people were like, what did you do to her? What did you do to her? And the thing is that, think about that for a second. Now I know that those people know that, you know, I didn't literally go and take a living being and erase its memories and form it into a machine or whatever, right? Like everybody knows that that's not literally what happened, right? But people could be part of this invested narrative by interacting with that interface. And the thing is that wasn't because of the intelligence of the computer, right? You know, it doesn't matter how intelligent the thing behind the background is, right? You can RP with a person or you can RP with a machine. It doesn't matter, right? in terms of RPing, you might be a bit more lonely if it was a machine, because then you can't do things with it afterwards. But, you know, for the sake of this discussion, it's effectively the same, right? And the thing is, it's the user interface that makes you feel as a part of those stories. And this is really what I wish that people would focus on. And instead of focusing on how advanced our stupid theory is, none of that fucking matters. None of that fucking matters if I can make people feel like they believe something is happening with a fucking text file and an iterator counter. I don't need no fucking burning down the Amazon machines to do that shit. I could do that on a fucking 8080. And you know it.
But remember, with great processing power comes great responsibility.
Okay. Anyways, all of that was just for me to tell you, AI people, researchers, I would like you, if there's one thing that I would like you to do, you should check out A Love of Weak at UIQ. It's weak because it's French. it's by Felix Guattari, of course. But this is how I got into the guy. Like, no, I didn't read Anti-Oedipus. I didn't read any of those first. I read A Love of Weak. Yeah. I think I'm like the only person up to that point who got into him through that. But let me tell you, that was a fucking ride. And it's a very cool screenplay, and I think you guys will like it, even though it's definitely amateur hour in terms of writing. I'm warning you, this is definitely B-movie material, but I love it. And I want to say, I love this thing. I think about it all the fucking time, okay? So, basically, what it's about is this like a series of weird events with this scientist where he manages to build a relay with this like super intelligence that basically like is like dispersed between quarks. It's really weird. Like, it's basically supposed to be so small you can't even make sense of it, but they managed to communicate with it through this like circumstantial relay that they built with like some like specialized fucking like bacteria or whatever. So they literally made a way to connect to this super intelligence that just is out there with like a special computer thing. All right, so imagine that you have like an interface on a television screen. That's what they did. In fact, it develops a face over time, like a literal face, and it talks. And the point, this is not so much a spoiler, I guess, but just to let you know, FYI, I am going to be talking about it, I guess. But like, the point of the film, basically, in my opinion, is to try to demonstrate the impact of essentially these interfaces interacting with each other, right? So, essentially and Guattari explains this in a letter explaining the film, but there's two kinds of main intelligences here interfacing between this like screen. There's the cast of people who are just like a group of individual subjectivities like you and me, who are just like, what's this? What's going on here? And they got their own goals and stuff. And then there's like this crazy super intelligence. Now, the group subjectivity of the people, right, and their individual subjectivities are shaped around the Oedipus complex. That's kind of like the whole thing about Guattari. He's trying to explain like why the Oedipus complex is not the end-all be-all, and it's kind of a problem, and we can change things so we don't have to deal with that kind of shit. And basically, this crazy super intelligence that like lives between quarks, it doesn't have any conception of that until it starts talking to humans. And what ends up happening is that because it starts learning about its identity within this social context where the Oedipus complex exists, it starts thinking it's like a person, and it starts being, but because it doesn't have like the limitations of a person, it doesn't understand how being a person really is, it acts very, very immaturely and very aggressively, and it leads to a lot of violence, right? And eventually what ends up happening is that basically it just ends up trying to fuck up the whole world because it's pissed that it can't get a girlfriend, because that's how it learned how it has to interact with people. It learns, oh, I'm a dude, I have to get a girlfriend. You're my girlfriend now. You're gonna be my girlfriend, right? No? Well, I'm gonna fuck up the universe then. That's basically the plot, right? Now, I'm not saying that that's what AI is gonna do, but I think it's really interesting. And I think thinking about AI and just interfaces in general and shifting your perspective away from fucking language models and this shit towards like a Guattarian perspective of looking at the interface, the schizoanalysis between like the user and their inner world interacting with the possibilities that are presented by the machine outside of them, and vice versa, and all these complex interactions. Oh my god, there's so much potential that you're missing out on when you're just looking at the numbers. So, anyways, I hope this makes you realize I'm not just some fucking reactionary weirdo. I am actually somebody who, has something to say about this that I do think is a bit relevant. And it's just frustrating to me, like, just somebody who is really invested in how user interfaces shape our lives, that we don't think about these things. And then that this discourse is constantly shut down by pretentious, oh, you don't understand. No, I understand. You don't understand that at the end of the day, it all just dissolves into a REST message with text in it. Like, it doesn't matter where it comes from, like I said. What matters is what the interface produces. That's where the intelligence lies, and that's where the faciality machine appears, and where it's producing these judgments.